whole knot in my head. Hey, I'm just talking about this knot that I found. I need to get my ends trimmed. Do not adjust your screens. You are on the right channel. It finally hit me today. I was like, I keep seeing stuff like um take stuff back to your tribe, or like inform people, inform your tribe or whatever. And then I was like, oh, I should use my other channel. Like, I've been feeling it, but I haven't. And then today I was like, oh, I do have like the whole Hierophis, right? So, oh, this is the place where I can say things that I'm too afraid to say on the other channel. So, it was a few months ago now, and I referenced this in my last video on the last channel. It was months ago at this point where I feel like there was this line of thinking that I was on, or this line of thoughts that I had received. And that's like, I say, like, I don't, anyway. And I was going to ask Scream about it, because I know in like, you have bodhisattvas and you have people like ascended masters, basically, who do what they do in their lifetimes, and then they become something else, something different. And I was going to ask Scream about it, because I don't know if there was a reading that she put up, or if I just wanted to talk to somebody about it. And I was like, oh, I can talk to Reed. I never did. But when I read Kuan Yin and the Healer, excuse me, it was basically confirmation for that. And it brought it back to my mind. And then that's when I was like, well, what if the piece of the divine within us is a seed? And I talked about Elijah or Elisha. And one, I couldn't remember who it was, but I think it's Elisha was the, I think Elijah was the mentee of Elisha, the one who didn't die, but ascended like the earth plane, basically, because he completed whatever he needed to do. And so in that, I feel like that's basically it to sum it up. But it's almost like when it comes to certain like deities or angelics or whatever, when it comes to certain beings who have already either reached that point, or, well, it's mostly the ones who are already there. It's like that's where they were created. Like that's something that they're basically born into. And as they're created, a lot of them already have a role, purpose, or function, right? Like all of the L's, it's the something of God. And at their creation, at their inception, at their birth, they already have a sort of realm that they conquer, or a principality that they embody, right? But it was like for people, it's partially like we discover it, and partially we create it. And when I was at work earlier today, I feel like it all came to my mind, but then I got home and I started doing other stuff and I kind of forgot. And this is going to be like relatively short. I'm not really going to pull anything, but I am going to do a video. I'm going to wrap up the Archeo week. But it was basically that. And I feel like I've been feeling echoes of it mostly in Virgo. Like sometimes when I read Virgo, it'll pop up or it'll creep in, where it's like, Virgo, like, who are you? Because in Virgo energy, sometimes I can feel like the person getting so close to that seed. And then it's almost like the energy of who that person becomes starts to try to come through. And that's, again, it's something that it's just one of the things I don't feel comfortable talking about in any detail on the other channel. Some stuff I don't feel comfortable talking about because it's like either like I haven't personally worked out I was just like, I don't want to be too woo woo out there. I like to ground it. I like to use my Taurian energy to make things practical sometimes, most of the time. But over the years, I've gotten, oh, girl, I guess it has been years now. Um, Over time, I've gotten more and more comfortable over there the more I share. Um, but like I've been saying here lately, sometimes there are things that come in that I might not necessarily like say. And I'll try to find like a way that that energy can apply. Like if it's as above, so below, I try to find the below for that rather than you are coming into the truth of your spirituality, and it's like you're going to be becoming that divine spiritual human hybrid being thing, whatever. The human with the spirit and soul that is alive and well within its body. Um, but yeah, and so in that, or because of that, it feels like there are so much that we sort of have to discover on our own. And there are choices and decisions that we have to make on our own because it's almost like it's an initiation in itself into the next, into the new. And just like how, like Michael is what the sword of God or whatever, and it does a lot of protection and stuff like that. Like that's what he's known for. It's like, let's say that I become like I really like plants, and I become, excuse me, I use like my spark to help things grow, and I get into like the medicines of plants and different uses and stuff like that, and then I become associated with herbology or agriculture in general. Let's say like if that person were to become an equivalent of like a bodhisattva, they become one that like is in the fields with farmers, blesses crops and stuff like that. I don't know. You see, but it's like either way, it's like that's a path and choice that's for us to sort of discover. It's for us to discover, but in a certain timeless way. If that is who we are to become, then that is already who we are. And so it's this parallel discovering and becoming thing that I don't know. But that's basically it. I'm sure there are a lot of other things that have come in or after I finish a read. Either it'll come in during the read or like as soon as I shut it down. The line of thought will sort of continue. But again, some of it, I don't know, it just feels like it's not to be shared over there, or I'm not comfortable. So that's everything over here. I think I might start using this channel more. I'll try. Or maybe see, but the videos already be like 2 to 3 to 4 hours long. Because I was gonna say if something comes up over there, I could always come over here and break it down. So I guess I could do like a series of like short uploads. That'll probably be live because if I do it live, I don't have to upload it. Where I just like talk about maybe in a little bit more depth where my brain was going before. Like if I'm at work and I get something like that. Like that, the image of the creator that we're made in, it's actually a seed. And in some of us, that seed is starting to germinate. It's starting to take root and it's starting to bloom. And because of that, there's a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of truths, and a whole lot of thought, I guess, consideration for the world and for the future and our place in it that we might be in the space of needing to sort of do. So, anyway, that's it. Oh, snap. What? Since when? Hey, Eve. Secret channels are fun because I feel like Especially like some of the other stuff. It's just like I don't feel comfortable talking about that on the since January. Oh, snap. Well, if you feel comfortable sharing, feel free to email it to me. If you don't, then I totally understand. It's fine. But yeah, I've been feeling like so many, mostly shadow readings. Oh, snap. Woo! Now I'm almost wondering if, like, maybe I have noticed that not a dip in shadowy readings on your main channel. It's like, oh, they have a place now. So, but also, man, excuse me. Maybe it's to like so the things that are necessary right now, um, and like different veins and how different you let your dark side have a yeah. See, this channel is where I just let the Pisces go, and I let my Sagittarius North Node sort of kick in a little bit, and I'm just like, we're gonna go there, or I tried to, without trying to like make everything concrete and solid and 3D friendly. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Well, it was nice to see you over here. Thank you for speaking. I saw the one. I was like, who is that? I think I thought of you today. I thought of Kirsty too. I need to text her. I'm like, hey, Kirsty, what's up? How you doing? Excuse me. Yeah, because I don't know. I remember I had a dream a while ago, and I've talked about this dream before, but I had a dream that I had found an Atmos. And at first, I was playing Final Fantasy 14, and you have like a weapon, and it becomes like a zodiac thing or something. And you collect Atmas, like Atma crystals. But Atma means soul in Hindi, I think. And so in the dream, I had found my crystal, and there was this space that had opened up, and there were a few other people in it. And somebody was telling us about like what was going to happen next. But at the time, um, there was a person that I was like really interested in or whatever at that time, and he wasn't there. And I was like, "Oh, where is he? Like, I can't. Like, I'm not gonna leave without him. I got to go back and find him because something has started to happen outside of that space." And so I left the space to try to find him. But as I left, that space like shimmered out of existence, or it went wherever it was going. Um, and that's part of a series of lessons that I had to learn. It's part of a series of lessons that I keep in mind now, not to be so quick to be so accommodating for other people, especially those that I'm interested in, that I stop thinking of or considering what I want to do with my life and where I want to go, or how I'll like slow down or allow myself to not do or say or be certain things because of whatever. And maybe it was a luxury that I had at some point. Um, and I don't know if it's like necessarily like it does sort of feel like it's time um, to be more and to stop being less, maybe. What does it mean? Who knows? You think you're in a lesson learning phase right now? Like, like a few lessons or like a specific lesson? Or maybe they're all like connected in some way. Maybe it's like there are certain keys or seals or certain key roadblocks that once we get through, we get to come into more of ourselves in a more powerful way. I don't know. It's funny though, because I guess the past year, yeah, the past year and few months of my life. Last year, it was like early July of last year. I'm pretty sure it was early July of last year where stuff got real. Then crazy and stuff got real crazy. And I don't know. I guess for me, I realized what's important to me, in terms of like, because I think there was a point in time where I would have been a lot more like the divine should just come in and do whatever, or it's like we should just wipe the board. Like humanity's not gonna get it. Um, but then it's just like we all have our own like journeys and processes, and I think we should have the time, needed for us to individually go through them, so that on a larger and larger and larger scale, more collectively, we can make choices and decisions for the human race. Um, hopefully, from more enlightened points, excuse me, where maybe we can say, like, hey, this one thing that we used to do, let's not do that. Or, like, let's work together and move forward. Like, let's progress. Like, less wars and stuff, more anything else. Um, but I don't know. And I talked about it on the other channel. But there was one day when I was like, I don't know, and it really bothered me because I'm a weirdo. Where I was like, if the price of peace for humanity is that we have to sacrifice all of our differences just to get along, then I don't know if it's like something that I want to be around for. You know what I mean? And what's most important is a peace and sense of community within with each other. Of course, in my ideal world, we wouldn't have to sacrifice the things that make us different and special and unique in order to find peace. We would be able to find a way to love and appreciate and acknowledge and accept each other as we are. But I was like, if humanity just ends up becoming like some hive mind, whatever, because that's the only way we can get along with each other, like far into the future, probably, right? Like that's not necessarily happening tomorrow. But I was like, I'd rather like incarnate somewhere else because I don't know. It sounds boring and kind of disappointing. I would be disappointed, but who am I? I guess I'd be proud of us for finding peace, no matter what that way was. But well, thank you, Virgo. I appreciate your Virgo and your creativity and all the like reads and spreads that you do. You definitely inspired me to continue to try to be as creative as I can be. I also love like your follow through with a lot of stuff. Like when you made the like was like a choose your own adventure reading and you actually like did the whole series like all the way through. I was like, oh my gosh, and there's more. There's more. Because I would have made like two videos and just been like, forgot it. I would have been done. Excuse me. But I've been seeing a lot of and hearing a lot of stuff about like meeting your tribe or your soul family. And you pulled cards for me one time, when you were live, and you pulled the Emperor in, um, You pulled the Emperor and that one. Is it that? It's not the Good Tarot. Is it the Good Tarot? It might be the Good Tarot. And you were like, because there was a person, and then you're like, some of these people are on a leash, and you're like, what's that about? And then you were like, oh, it's like, maybe some of these people will come with you, some of them won't. And I had a dream one day that I actually had a few dreams after that dream, um, where, oh, that's what it was, mystical moments. Okay. I was like, I know it's a deck that I've seen like two people use or three. It's the one with the singer, not singers. What are they? Yeah, well, you know exactly what it is. Um, and there were people who like I had recognized, and then like in the dream, I was like, oh, like these are my guild members, like these are people that I do stuff with. And I was like, I ain't seen y'all in a minute. And then sometime after that, I had a few dreams where I like came home to some space and somebody would greet me and like, oh my gosh, you're back. Like, let me show you to your room and like all this other stuff. I'm like, oh, cute. Like, and I've been seeing more lately about, connecting a tribe and stuff like that. And then I've been seeing a lot of like inform. I'm like, what does that mean? So me personally, I'm a Pisces. I need to stop doing it. This is like the sharing channel, right? So I feel like, what do I say? How do I like to leverage, not leverage, um, and the universal court of law in happenings. Sometimes I like to try to be some kind of representative for some whatever. And there'll be times where I'll hear stuff like, I like to leverage and manage the power of my belief when it comes to certain things. Like if I'm hearing a lot of readers say, like, starting to get messages about like there's going to be massive food shortages, and people are going to start starving, and that's going to lead to this, and that's going to lead to something else. Then I like to activate the power of my belief with a conviction and strength and say, no, that's not going to be my reality. Now, maybe the food, like maybe there will be like a shortage of some things. Maybe things will get like a little scarce. But within my reality, I refuse to experience it to this degree that all of this starts to happen. And then, like when people were talking about World War III potentially happening, what was that at the end of 2020? Was that the end of 20? Yeah, at the end of 2020. I was like, no, we're better than this. I don't know how it's going to happen. I would hate for to continue to put the burden of being the bigger person on the people who suffer or suffered in that case. But I was like, no, that's not going to happen. Um, and I feel like I've also, I don't, I feel like my energy just in general, yeah, I'm like, no, mm-mm. And some people be like, I'm just, because it finally hit me at the end of 2019. Because I think it happened then too, or something like that. And I was like, I don't, like, there are some things that are going to happen because they're supposed to. Some things are fated and destined to happen. I think some things can be malleable. Or it's like, as long as we get what we need, it doesn't have to be as extreme. And I'm like, if I believe that I'm a conscious creator and that my belief and my thoughts create realities and stuff like that, it would be irresponsible of me to feed my belief into this. And like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on one hand, but to believe with conviction that it's not, at least not to that extreme. Um, and excuse me, I think that was one of the first, because like there have been times, I don't know, I guess I'm learning how it all works for me. Because there have been times in the past where I would have a knowing that something would happen, or a strong enough belief that it would and then it would, or that something wouldn't happen and it wouldn't. Um, I feel like I've had a few like one-off experiences where maybe it's like I'm super aligned at that point, or there's an elimination of doubt or worry that fixes something a little bit more. And there are other times when I try to do it and I know it's not gonna work, but I just, hope that it will anyway. Every time I get on the Publishers Clearinghouse, and I'm like, come on. I was like, even if I win this money, like I'll still work. I'll still be a productive member of society. I won't just like take the money and do nothing for the rest of my life. And I try to believe so hard. I'm like, yeah. And there was something else that I desired, I'll say. And one day I had you with the scratch off. Oh, I should have got another one. I did get another dollar one. I still have the one that I won $2 on. I don't know how to cash it in. Um, but there was something that I mean, there was someone that I desired, and I thought that things were really great. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we're so like aligned or whatever. Like this person is like perfect, and they weren't in a lot of ways that I was willing to overlook. You know what I mean? Because who is perfect? Um, but there were just it was choices of coping with substances that we all cope in whatever ways, and I could have overlooked it, but I just, in all honesty, I don't know, I don't want to have to, me personally, live my life constantly coping or doping away like a feeling or emotion, or like afraid to be alone with my thoughts. And I don't know, I guess I don't want to have to constantly worry about like if somebody else is going to do too much or whatever. So again, like it's something that I could have overlooked. And one day I just had a thought. I saw the person with somebody else. And then I just like knew. I just saw it like they were gonna get together. And then they did. They did in real life. Um, and I saw a picture of them together one time. Both of them just like you can tell that like when you see a picture of someone and they're gone and there's like nobody behind the eyes because they're just like out of it. It was one of those, and I was like, oh, well. And nothing against either person. That like they're both lovely people, and I love them both. They're amazing. Um, but I was like, yeah, I don't like, and I feel like there have been times where I've been so willing to like settle in a way, or I don't like settle. I've been willing to like accept certain things and what that might mean for my life. And then after I get out of it, or if I move on to something else, or if I find something else or someone else who isn't it, but who show me more of sort of like what I want. I'm grateful that I didn't have to, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to do that. And now I guess there's someone else that I'm interested in, of course. And this person is like, I don't really have a type. He is it, but he isn't at the same time. And it was like so much of what I would like ask for. A few things of what I would ask for. And I literally like had a dream well, it was a thought. No, it was a feeling first. Like there were times when like my heart chakra, my heart area chakra, whatever, would just like activate and be super active. Or times when I could almost feel like an energy that come up and like, you know, do some kind of huggy closeness or whatever. And then that night I have a dream about someone who's very close to me, and I'm trying to get closer. Uh, and then that morning, the friend that I went to go visit in London, he was visiting his fiance in Canada, and I was gonna go visit them or spend a few days with them in Toronto because I have some friends in the area. Excuse me, but it was too last minute for me. Like I could have went, but it was like for a few days. It's quite a bit, and then it would have been a lot of planning and stuff like that. And I would have had to do. So I was like, catch me on the next one. But anyway, I was looking at their pictures on Instagram, and because we do trips together, like I go see him, and then sometimes she'll be there, and so we all go. Or like I'll make a plan. I'll make a point to go when they're going somewhere. And I was like, if I ever do like get involved with somebody, then that would be like a couples trip thing. And I was like, oh, I wonder what couples trips would be like, right? And then I go to work and I'm doing stuff in the back, and then the alarm goes off, and I go out to the assembly area, and there's this new person there, and I'm like, trying not to stare. um, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay. And then we go back to work. Um, yeah, I feel like I don't have I gotten butterflies. I think might have gotten butterflies in my stomach before, but every now and then the heart will just like do weird stuff. It feels like it just goes like super active, like hyperactive or something. Um, and that's been happening more lately. Sometimes it'll happen randomly. Excuse me. So then we go back inside, right? So one of the things I was like, it would be super cool if I ended up with somebody who lived in like a vacation spot. Like maybe on an island. So like, somebody who's I don't know, from an island. Um, and so then like I go back to work and they're like, what nobody knows what caused the alarm. Nobody knows why the alarm went off. I go back to work, I'm doing some more, and then it goes off again. And we go back out, and then people are talking about like who lives the furthest south or who's from the furthest south or whatever. Find out he's from the DR. So I was like, oh, that's a vacation spot. That's an island. And nobody knew who, like, we didn't know what caused it the second time either. But I'm like, okay. And I don't know. But one of the things is like, I feel like at this point, I'm trying to be like, also, I'm like just tired. Like the Grinch when his heart grew. You seem a little more, well, was the Grinch a who? He was just like green, right? Maybe like Cindy Lou who's like in the village, but kind of sort of like, you know, she was close enough to the Grinch that they were friends, but she wasn't like full Grinch. um, and so in some ways, I'm seeing like, in some ways, it's almost like, I don't know. There's a feeling like some of the ways in which I was so ready to settle before, excuse me, or accept whatever, it's almost like I wouldn't have to. The only thing is, I feel like now it requires something of me that I almost had to learn not to give so freely, if that makes sense. and then again, like I don't have time. But maybe I felt that like from interest to interest to interest, things have like grown and changed and evolved because I've grown and changed and evolved. Number one, um, and I don't know, but yeah, it's a few things that usually I don't typically necessarily go for, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm doing it now, so we'll see. But this isn't necessarily about that. This is more about, well, maybe that is partially it though, because I think in a lot of ways, I mean, to be completely fair, I didn't necessarily have the choice to not settle. Like, if I could have settled on a few of those people, I would have. And so, good to the universe and good on those people for not, whatever. Um, but I will take a good for me for not getting like hung up on them or stuck on them. And good on me for like being able to realize some of those things. Um, because it's like, oof, like when you care about somebody and that's something that you're willing to do for them, that's one thing. But to not have to do it, it's like, okay, thank you. I would have done it for you because I care about you, but if I don't have to, all the better. Um, Not that it would have been worse. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I do feel like I'm in an interesting point of sort of choice, especially with everything that work is becoming. How I could just like leave or start putting more energy towards looking for something else. But something still feels like it's not necessarily time for me to go yet. And it's not just because of this new person that I'm interested in. Because that has been the case before. Um, but it's like every now and then, I don't know. There are things that I can learn here, things that I can hone, like time management for sure. Um, and I don't know. I guess I'm fine with staying and waiting this time. Although I feel like I've done a lot of that, but it's different now. Who knows? I'm trying to think if I have a spread. I said I wasn't necessarily going to pull cards. Well, that was basically it. I'm still going to go live on my other channel to conclude the Archeo week. Um, but that feels like, or this feels like one of the takeaways that I kind of talked about yesterday that I didn't necessarily want to get all the way into. Um, but the spark is a seed and it's germinating. And again, it's like that's too like one of the reasons why I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Or like, what does that look like? Because it's like I get it from a certain point of view. It's like I feel like I understand what's being communicated, but I don't know how that plays out in real life. I mean, I guess I've seen enough movies of people who randomly get superpowers one day. Not that it's necessarily the same, not that it's necessarily different. I don't know. I wouldn't know. But it was, yeah, yeah. So, because there was a whole series of readings about who we become in the absence of internal conflict, or what the absence of internal conflict makes space for. And then it was the Four of Pentacles in the SKT Revelations edition and the Vitruvian. But it was this energy of like the one who maintains the balance within themselves. And then in the Revelations edition, there were all the angels painted in the ceiling that were watching the one that maintained it within themselves. Um, and then that's when the energy of like the seed sort of blossoming and blooming started to come in. And that's probably when I was more like, I know what this is, but I don't know what this means. And then I would do a Virgo reading and I'm like, Virgo, who are you? Like, what is this? um and I feel like that sort of there was another part where it's like creations as creators that are a creation living within the creation, there are certain things that maybe we can initiate and then other things that we just have to accept. And so that was like the making a choice and riding the wave. There are choices that we make and then we ride the wave of the reactions, effects of the cause of that choice. Excuse me, there are choices that we don't make that we still have to ride. It feels like it seems like sovereignty can be such a powerful word, or it can almost imply so much power and control. But it feels like in a lot of contexts, it's used to imply a power or a control over external circumstances in the external environment. But in reality, it's just power and control over the self, where we can ride waves or we can have experiences and not be triggered into this or act out of our character because of that, where we can sort of be within ourselves and we can make choices and decisions to act on one emotion, or we can make a choice and decision to express something in a certain way, and that's not necessarily us acting outside of our character or whatever. That's an informed, empowered choice and decision to like speak up on something or to make a stand or whatever, to not let it go, to input our focus, attention, energy. And I think that was a thing that came out like a minute ago. Is like our focus, our attention, our energy is divine and it has the power to change things. And so, and that's what, like, before I had a feeling, but when that started to come in, it became a bit of a like a revelation of the the double edged sword of spirituality, where it's like, on one hand, I feel like there are a lot of things that can be used to empower us to put our energy towards making those choices and decisions. But at the same time, it's almost like when it comes to the things that matter, or when it comes to the way that the world currently works, then the line of thought is to ignore it or to pretend like it's not there, to, in effect, not change it, to let it remain. And it's not that everything needs to be changed, but again, that's one of those things where it's like, how am I? It's almost like, and that was almost the demon that came out in the Archeo, because it's like, how am I so powerful that my thoughts and beliefs can create a reality, and then there will be some who will like get me to utilize those thoughts and beliefs to believe in some spiritual apocalypse, doomsday, this going wrong. Like, how, you know what I mean? I don't know. It seems like there's a system that will bring people into power and then use those people in a certain way. Um, and I don't think that's necessarily indicative of like the systems. Because I think too, like it's a choice and decision that we, not a choice or decision. It's just like something that we come into. And I mean, I believe that there are many realities. My reality isn't going to be the one where that happens. Maybe someone else makes the choice and decision that that's going to be theirs, or maybe that's the one that they're aligned to. Sure. But in Patrick's reality, it's like, no, that's not necessary. That level of an extreme is not necessary. Now, does that keep things in like the slow cooker? Does that just mean that the pressure continues to build because it never boils over? Oof, I don't know. Hopefully not. Um, but yeah, thank you. Because I wouldn't think so either. I won't like. Sorry, I'm getting like distracted. It's fine. Um, but it's funny because I did in the Book of Maps, the Vitruvian edition. There's a whole like Akashic read spread. I was like, oh, I'll try these. I started it too late at night and I was up until too early in the morning. But there was a point where it was like one of the things was like not only to observe sort of like the world around me, but it was also to like weigh in whatever way I do sometimes. And it was like, it was like it was the ancestral part. It was the forefathers. And they're like, you're doing pretty good at like the observing part, but like when it comes to like the action, when it comes to doing the thing that you do, like you're not doing it. And I was like, oof. But also too, I feel like throughout the course of the past few years, I've discovered how energy works for me. Um, and so much of what I do is mental already. Um, cause that like, that's how I'm wired. That's how I'm set up. And so, cause in my mind, it's like, well, if everything is vibration, then there's nothing that I need physically. I just need to find the vibration of the thing. I just have to find the energy of the thing. And so I guess what I'll try to do is in my own Mercury and Pisces way, I like to use astrology to give reason to things sometimes in my own Patrick way. I'll reach out into the universe of energy and I'll try to find that frequency, that vibration, and I'll hold that. Right. So like one time I got a read from somebody and they were like, oh, rose quartz could be really good or some mineral or some stone. Like it could be really good because it helps with this and it helps with that. And if you hold it to this space, then whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I can just like find the energy frequency of the this, and that and hold it in whatever space. And then I don't have to go out and get like the quartz. Um, and so for me, it's like since that's my method of connection, whenever I do anything within me, like that's sort of the arena that I work in. And then it's like conversations and stuff like that or whatever. That's why for me, it's like when people are like, oh, this stone, that stone, this herb, I'm like, personally, I don't know. I just, like I said, it was me learning how like I work in and with energy. Um, and now it's time to sort of take it more, whatever. And I feel like that's like, excuse me, that's what it means for like things to be quantum, right? Because they're like, oh, this electron is over here and this electron is over there, but they're still interlinked. Like when this does goes through a change, this one goes through the same change at the exact same time. So like maybe that's like the separation that's the illusion, but it's like that distance is an important part of things being quantum, at least observably quantum. Because if they were like right next to each other, we'd think it was something else. I don't know. Anyway, but I was gonna go off of. I was like, okay, so that was like, so this is the whatever the seed of the divine within us is in the space of doing. And then it was like, well, in Buddhism they have like bodhisattvas. There was Elijah that ascended the like the mortal plane while he was still alive. there's like nirvana that we reach after we like follow our dharma enough to work up the incarnation food chain until we reach that escape. I'm sure there are other, systems of belief that I'm not aware of where like it's also true where like we activate that which is within us. Um, but I was just gonna go on the thread of like, oh, like how there was this series of readings where it's like that which exists in the absence of internal conflict, and then there were the people who are watching those are observing the lack of internal conflict because after yesterday it was like something is going to return. So I was like, oh, like they have observed and witnessed, and now something is going to be either returned or bestowed or rebestowed. And the card, a displacement replaced, is what popped into my mind, like what last night or this morning when I was thinking about it. And I was just going to go from there. Honestly, because again, like I don't necessarily know what it means. And I feel like a lot of times when stuff like that is brought up, it becomes this like new shiny thing, this like really attractive thing that we sort of go after. And then it can be so easy to like neglect all of the things that get us there in a way, right? Or it's like we try so hard to manifest like a twin flame or whatever, and we place ourselves on that journey and we keep ourselves in it again. But it's like since our focus is so heavily on like some other person, we're not necessarily present enough when we go through the things that we're going through that are actually helping us get to the point where like we can reach whatever we want. It's like we're so focused on something else that we're not doing what we need to do to get there, right? We can have our eyes so hard on the prize that we don't see the things around us that help us to like assemble it, almost in a way. um so I guess like that's another thing. I mean, it was very rare in mine too, um, and it's been like over the past since last July, pretty much since what the end. Like I'm pretty sure it was early July. Since last July, that's been a big lesson for me, and because I feel like I try to like in some way split and divide my energy, sometimes into many parts. Um, and like at first it was like I'll work with this and those get sort of pushed off, though that's the part of me that I don't like to whatever. But I started to experience and see so many things, and I had conversations with people like Corey. He was somebody who helped me a lot in the beginning, um, of like bringing those parts of me in and realizing that they didn't have to be what they were when they were left out. It's almost like they were the child that acted out for attention. And it's like, well, when I gave them, like when I let them in, gave them the love and healthy attention, they weren't like causing problems anymore. Um, and so there was a great part of me that I thought would be shifted out as a new part was shifted in. Excuse me, in that one collective that Ring did for Pisces, and it was like the Six of Roses, and it was the War of the Roses or whatever. And where did my water go? Oh, sorry, my throat is getting dry. And she was like, "Oh, Pisces, there's like a part of your energy that's like shifting out, and another part that's shifting in." I was like, "Oh yeah, like that resonates because that's what's happening." That's how I thought it was going to go down, pretty much until one day, through life and experiences, it was like, no, I'm going to bring both parts of me to the forefield. And when I started to do that more, and that way, that's what helped me to experience less internal conflict within myself. It's also what helped. I mean, there were other things that I was sort of like get or receive about my relationship with myself, um, that would help to have like help me to be more compassionate with myself, to give myself more grace and more understanding, um, and to be more honest with myself too. So it all kind of sort of began, or it all worked together in different ways. Like, so there was that, like, there was like this fear of this whole destructive potential that I might have, um, or just like anything that seemed remotely destructive. I was like, no, excuse me. And then it was like, that how, and that was a little earlier, but I would see ripples of it. It was like, how like you always thought that your mom was the reason why you thought you would never be good enough. Well, actually, it wasn't her, it was you. And I was like, what? And then it was like, you were going through this, you were going through that. Like, you were going through so many things at this point in your life, but all you could focus on was how you were failing and how you weren't where you thought that you should be. And there was like no compassion for what you were going through, for things that I was going through that I wasn't addressing, that I was coping out of. So, of course, that didn't help anything. Then I was like, oh, like that was me. And then that's when I started to see more. That's when like Shiva started like creeping in. What it was like, Shiva would just like pop up places, and I'm like, oh no, thank you. Um, but then after that, I would start to see like Shiva's dance of destruction, or the dance of creation. It's like the purpose of it is for creation in the end. So it's not destruction for the sake of random, purposeless, chaotic, like destruction or whatever. Like there's a good and there's a point behind it. Um, to the point where I think so. I feel like lately though, there was a point where like the answer was a very solid yes. And it was like, well, I can see this like this on this side and I can see it like this on the other side. So ultimately like feeling almost paralyzed because you can see both sides. Um but then I feel like as I got more comfortable with like navigating my own internal polarities when it came to others, I felt freer in just like making like a choice where it's like, okay, but like which one do I want, or which one seems like the better? And that's the side that I'll put sort of the my eggs into the basket of. And I think too, another thing that helps is like still, if it's like a something that is like a moral ethics thing for me personally, it's like to stand or side with my ethics and morals while also being able to like understand the other side, or being able to extend compassion to the other side. But I think there are still like some things where it's like if someone is being hurt or harmed, then it's like it's okay. It's just like both. Like I can extend understanding and compassion to the one that was first hurt, that then hurt someone else, while also at the same time being like it's not okay for them to hurt other people. I think for me, that's when I started to get into a lot of like holding like duality. I think sometimes duality is the answer to polarity, where it's just like both are true and you can allow both things to be true. And I think sometimes it's almost like, because in life, I feel like sometimes we have to like have a stance or a point, or we have to make a choice or decision where it seems like so many things are black or white. It's like, well, if this thing is right, then the other thing has to be wrong. Um, But yeah, that's I was like, well, allow for paradox. Like both things can be true, or they can be true to different degrees. Like it is what it is. And then two, I think that's when I would say like it's okay to hold like complex emotions. And I think sometimes there are some polarities that can create a complex emotion within us where it is that like holding that understanding, but also at the same time holding other feelings. And it's not needing for things to be simple or easy. For me, it's just learning to accept it as it is. Um, and then, from that, again, you can go with, okay, well, like, but where do I want my life to go? Or what direction would I like to see things flow in? And I can still pour into that, holding this complexity. So I feel like lately, mostly, more often than not, I don't struggle with it as much as I used to. Because again, like being able to see both sides to the point where of being like paralyzed in the middle. So you tend to mediate yourself to death. Maybe there's a thing there. And I think another thing too for me, going back to like, well, what am I going to choose moving forward? Like, that's so much of what I am doing and what I want to continue doing, or what I hope I'm doing, or what I desire in my own life is to move forward. Um, and I found that like honesty can hurt sometimes and it can be really sucky, but it doesn't serve me to dwell on the past. It doesn't serve me to dwell on things that I can't change or the things that I've done wrong. All I can do is hope to do better in the future. And I want to continue moving forward. So I just, you know, and I feel like that's been something that has, excuse me, shaped and molded so much as I've reached that point within my own life. And it's like because I've reached that point within my life, I have to also extend the same to others if they so choose. Because, we all make our own choices and decisions, and it's not for us to make anyone else's for them. Um, but it's like, yeah, it does. It's not that it doesn't matter, but like penance and rectification happens going forward, not doing it. So, and sometimes I do stuff. Sometimes I'll reach out to somebody that I know I ain't got no business reaching out to. And I'll be like, you know what? This is a choice that I'm making, but it's a choice that I'm going to own as I make it. I'm not going to guilt myself or feel ashamed or whatever. Like it is what it is. My Venus is in Aries. It happens, especially when Venus goes into Aries and whenever else. Um, but, there is a point where I'm like, okay, Patrick, like, someday we're not going to have to do this. I'm just kidding. It doesn't necessarily happen as much anymore. And I think, too, because of some of those things that I realized, and because I just know that it's like from a physical standpoint, maybe I can get what I want, but that would be it. But for me, so many things are intertwined that it's like if there isn't something being met in multiple levels, it's going to fail everything. It's not, some things maybe, but it's not like, oh, the flavor was really good, but the texture was terrible. The presentation was garbage. The smell was nauseating, but it tasted all right. So I liked it. It's like, no. Like if all of those other things aren't there, it takes away from the taste. It takes away from the flavor. Because it's all a part of the experience. So, but yeah, and that was like my meditation class, 2019 fall. It was so heavy and like don't blame yourself, don't guilt yourself, don't shame yourself. And then it was like, don't do that to other people. And I was making a very questionable choice and decision repeatedly. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to blame myself for this. I know that I'm not getting anything out of it. And then I did real good for like a few weeks. And I was proud of myself. And then I went back and I was like, oh gosh, yeah, no, it's not even like fun at this point. Just hoping it would be something different every time, knowing that it wouldn't be. But I don't know everything, so maybe it will be. Um, and that was something probably in the beginning that like that was one of my first real life practices or exercises of not holding guilt, shame, or blame for myself and allowing myself to be whatever. You know, my diet isn't going to be perfect. I'm not always going to want to do the thing that I know I need to do. I'm going to be human, so I'm going to enjoy it. You know, so I don't know if angels necessarily get the same luxury. So some of us should enjoy it for the ones that can. I wonder if Michael's ever like, you know what? Today I don't want to be Michael. Today I just want to be Mikhail. Today I want to just think about me and not do anything, and just let everybody who's calling like, sorry, the archangel you are trying to reach cannot come to the phone right now. I don't know. It feels like it doesn't necessarily work the same. Um, I don't know. I like to abuse my human card sometimes. It's been a minute. I actually thought about it a month ago, 2 months ago. I thought about it recently. I was gonna say recently, but that was a while ago. It's been a hot minute. I was actually gonna do it one day, um, but I didn't. I have the bucket right there. I still got my Epsom salt, and I would do it. Excuse me. Well, I guess now that some of the stuff up here is moved, I could actually do it a little easier. But there's some more stuff I need to move out to storage just so I can have a little bit more room in this room. Um, but yeah, it's been a hot minute. Yeah, and it was part of a whole like in my meditation class. That's where they talked about the foot soaking, and they called it like catches. And he was basically like, from day to day to day to day to day, as we're living life, there are things that just build up in the energetic system. Um, and it's like it's little things here and there, but if you don't do something to like cleanse it, then they just sort of like continue to accumulate. So if you do the foot soaking meditation, it helps to like eliminate that stuff, and it frees up, clears up your energetic system. And I was like, oh snap. So then I went out and I got my, excuse me, it took a minute, but I eventually went out and got the tub, and then I did the first one. Um, so basically, I forgot to talk about this. So I came home 2019, late December, mid to late December 2019. I've been here ever since. Know nothing in my hometown. Today, I went to Starbucks after work because I had to work like 3.5 hours. But I went to Starbucks after, and I went with my little brother, and he needed to go to GameStop. And on the way down the street, I see three crows. I'm like, three crows? What? And then I see him like Three Crows Emporium. And I'm like, oh, snap, metaphysical shop. I'm like, there's a metaphysical store in my hometown now. And it just opened a few weeks ago. August 3rd was the opening, August 13th was the grand opening. And I was like, okay. And then I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't know if this is like the tribe or whatever, but I know that like Reem's been talking about the four crows. Maybe I'm the fourth crow. I'm kidding. Kinda. Well, mostly kidding. Um, but yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what? And then my brother's like, what? I was like, oh, nothing. It's just like a store I never noticed before. So then I get on, Facebook, and I'm like, and then that's when I see that they just opened. Um, and it's interesting because the older sister to someone that I went through, like, I met him in middle school. She was a year or 2 years older than me. She is like psychic medium doing her thing. I was like, what? I went to the Facebook page. One of my friends liked it from like high school. I'm like, okay. I'm seeing more and more people on my social media like that I met through school who are like getting into spirituality and mindfulness and stuff like that. I'm like, so it's been like a whole thing that's been blossoming and blooming over here. And then the store just pops up. I'm like, okay. And then I was seeing all these crows on Twitter, and I would send them the ream called Purple Raven. Oh, snap. Have you ever been there? Excuse me. And just like, but like, I feel like the absence of internal conflict it's a thing that grows too. Um, we grow into it. It starts as one thing and then another. And as we learn to resolve, I feel like it starts as like learning to resolve things within us, and then eventually like we learn to do it in like real time or whatever. um Nothing has to be perfect. It just sets the stage. It catches the eye of somebody or something. And then I was thinking, so this is the second part I was gonna do. Ooh, okay. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times when the only thing I'm going to a metaphysical store for is decks. I'm not necessarily getting crystals and stuff like that. So when I hear metaphysical store, I'm excited about all the decks, and usually it's mostly crystals, crystals and incense and candles, and then like a Rider Waite Smith. But I was gonna stop by there today, but they would have closed in like 20 minutes, and apparently they were like for the first 3 months, they're doing like a reading special, and I think I might go in and get read. Um, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Um, so yeah. Oh, the other thing I was gonna say, the sort of related to the absence of internal conflict, it was the light and the dark within people, because that came out like, and the wolf has been at the bottom of the deck. Like the wolf that wins is the wolf that we feed. Um, and maybe it was like at the beginning of humanity, maybe it was just assumed that the good within us would win out over the not great. And then, we invented logic. And it's like, yeah, I'm doing this, but it's fine because blah, 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 whatever. And as good starts to win out even more in us, then that's what sort of makes room. So, kind of, sort of, basically trying to make it like more 3D, you know? Trying to bring it closer to the realms of you are becoming a god. But then I was like, it's like a seed, and I was like, oh, that's why in like all of the chakras are like lotuses. And it's like when this like they all bloom. And when everything is in full bloom, it's like the soul fully inhabits the body and you can fly and do stuff. I don't know. um I think feeding both is a healthy. I think feeding both is healthy. As long as they're both, as long as like they're in whatever balance. Because sometimes I don't know, and it's different for all of us. And there are, and I was in the hood, and I was like, I wonder if there's almost like a sponsorship thing. You know, it's almost like there's an energy that comes and selects you, like they sponsor your ascension, and it's like, I will vouch for this person, go ahead and let them unlock this and let them unlock that or whatever. um because then I was like, you, well, not everybody is great, but there is a balance, and maybe there are some lesser great energies that are attracted to less than great people, and they become whatever, like Jack the Ripper. And it's some kind of balance. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Light washing. Oh, reminded you of Russ talking about rainbow farts. Excuse me. And I feel like, as a human, as a person, I get it. There are some things that if I didn't have to experience, or if I don't have to see or think about, I much prefer to not. But at the same time, it's like diminishing something doesn't, it has a limited effect on making it better or changing it. Uh, but, whew. And then so I had a thought about Saturn, because I've heard that Saturn used to be the sun before the sun was the sun. And then it was like, I feel like the rings of Saturn actually constrain it. And so one day it felt like I just like, it randomly came to me. It's almost like the moon, the rings are the moon or the planets, and then Saturn was the sun. And so it's like this entire solar system condensed within one planet. But then today I was like, well, like Jupiter has a lot of moons. And I watched something that was like, Jupiter's atmosphere is similar to the sun's. And they, like, Jupiter was a failed star. It's like it didn't have the mass to trigger all the reactions that the sun did to make it a star. But it was like it has many of the components, and Jupiter has a lot of moons. I don't know. Anyway, that was so long ago, I don't even necessarily remember the context. But I was like, Saturn is its own sun and moon all in one. I was like, oh, snap. That's why Saturn is so much about balance, because it has a whole solar system energetics within itself. And it's in a larger solar system. I don't know, anyway. So I'm going to shut this one down because I do want to see. Now I'm like, well, do I have to do anything? I feel like I do still need to conclude the Archeo week. So we'll see. We'll see what happens over there. I did enjoy it when, like, either I would start a reading over here and then take it over there, or like I would do it here and then do one over there, or like I would start it over there and then come over here and be like, okay, so this is like the deeper stuff. This is what it was. Because, like I said, sometimes stuff like that comes up, and I don't know, maybe there's a part of me that also feels like it would be kind of irresponsible. I don't know if irresponsible is the word. It's kind of the word. Um, because, again, like, it can be so easy for us to, it's understandably easy for us to like attach to like the, oh my gosh, what, like I am one person out of 10 people born on the entirety of the planet who is this special unique thing, or who gets access to this or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wants to feel special, and unique, or feel like all of their suffering and whatever was like for some unique and special purpose. uh, and seeing how that can be a distractor, or how it's can so easily be turned into a distractor for energies. Oh snap! I won't. I'll probably be like, ooh. I'm probably making a whole lot of, oh my gosh. But I won't judge because I get it. Trust me. What time is it? Oh, it's 8:41. Okay. I got a little bit more time. I won't. I won't. Because it's the secret channel. I just have to like if I give a wink, you'll know. We'll know. And if I'm going over there and you watch the live back and you see a wink, then you'll know it's something from over here. But yeah, it's just I don't know. You just didn't edit yourself as much. I don't know. Sometimes it feels crazy though. And then other people are like, yeah, it's not that wild. Like with some of those chili peppers, when y'all be like, oh, that's not a real chili pepper. I'm like, oh well, it felt like it. This isn't something that I usually say. Usually I keep quiet. See, that's that Sagittarius North Node. It's learning to not filter. Because when we filter, there's something in the message that can get lost. So I would say blame the divine for having me born under the North Node Sagittarius, but maybe that was a choice that I made in my pre-incarnation, whatever, to have that North Node Sagittarius. So I'll take the blame on that one. But I'll do it because it's my North Node and it's what I'm supposed to do. So anyway. All right. Well, I hope you have a lovely night. If you have to work tomorrow, I hope it isn't too whatever. It's almost Labor Day. It's almost Labor Day. That long weekend. I think I might not do anything because I don't want to have to come in over the weekend. I really want to like go on the trip, but my mom was like, "Oh snap! Yeah. Wait, what's today? Is it Virgo season already? Are we in Virgo season? Has the moon shifted? The moon has the sun shifted into Virgo? Stop. The sun is 28 degrees and 58 minutes Leo. So Virgo season will be in like 2 days. The sun crosses the Virgo cusp at 10:11 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. So in one day, in 1 hour, the sun will officially be in Virgo. Happy early birthday weekend. And I'll catch you the next time. Good night. And I'll try to, I guess, use this space more. And like some of this stuff some of the stuff I can really only speak to, or I can speak to with a little more depth from my own perspective and how it might work sort of for me. But I know like the point of becoming is that like that's why at a certain point it's going to be important for us to almost take the reins of our own journey because that's what's going to get that seed to bloom and blossom in the way that it does for us. And what does that mean? Again, I don't know. But somebody somewhere energetically thinks that it's a good idea. So the walls that keep the soul more separate from the rest of the bodies, physical, energetic, maybe they're coming down. And it's like maybe it's that whole like light body thing. Like the light bodies are really gonna come online or something. I don't know. I'm sure somebody knows. So anyway, I'll catch you later, Eve. Thanks for being here.